Hey guys, a few days ago I brought you a video regarding the 5th episode leaks, in which I basically introduced you with leaked review of that episode that seems to be quite accurate. Meanwhile, much more detailed review that includes script pages of that same episode have been leaked, and beside being very detailed, most of events mentioned in these leaked scripts have already been confirmed by either preview, promos or trailers, while some are yet to be seen if true or false. As you can tell from the title itself, this video contains major spoilers for the 5th episode, so if you don't want anything spoiled, it's time for you to close this video. Before I start, let me just highlight that this might be an early version of the script, meaning that some details might have been changed in the process. The episode starts with a flotilla of Lannister soldiers and horses drift down a calmer stretch of the Blackwater River much farther downstream. A shudder of movement as Bronn and Jaime drag themselves onto the shore. As expected, Jaime didn't drown, but was rather saved by Bronn from the certain death once again. They stand up and look back at the battlefield in the distance, which is when Bronn asks Jaime, "What were you thinking?" sarcastically continuing, "Charging a dragon." Jaime answers, "I was thinking I was going to kill it." On which Bronn replies, "It's a dragon, how are you going to kill it?" Jaime answers with, "Through the eye." Before I continue, let me just say that this part of the leaked script page has been changed a little, since Jaime most certainly wasn't charging on Drogon but rather on Daenerys. Anyways, the two start off for King's Landing, visible on the horizon. Then scene switches to Tyrion walking alongside the ravaged loot train. He sees the Dothraki herding the captive soldiers and officers, including a bloodied Randyll and Dickon Tarly, towards Dany and Drogon. Dany announces to her captives that they have a choice, they can either bend the knee or refuse and die. Drogon growls, and most of the captive group drop to one knee. There are a few holdouts, among them are Randyll and nervous Dickon. Echoing Cersei's propaganda, Randyll says he isn't serving a foreign woman with an army of foreign savages. Dany corrects Randyll, saying that she is the queen of Westeros. Tyrion can see Dany's temper rising and points out that Randyll fought for her father, and handing the usurper Robert his only defeat, perhaps Dany could show mercy. But Randyll is not expecting mercy. He simply echoes Ned's line from the very first season, saying, "I'm a soldier. I learned how to die a long time ago." Daenerys says something along the lines, "Very well, if this Lord of Hornhill won't serve me, it's time for a new Lord of Hornhill." Daenerys truly meant what she said, that a child should not be judged by the sins of its father. Dany and Tyrion turn to Dickon. Tyrion urges the kid to be reasonable. Tyrion says to him, "Don't die to prove your father's point." Dickon looks to his father, and we see that a part of Lord Randyll wants his son to bend the knee and be spared. But Dickon is his father's son. He steels himself and stays on his feet rather than bending the knee. In an inside with Dany, Tyrion advocates against killing Dickon with him, stating that he's just a kid that is looking up to his father, nothing a few months of prison will not cure. Tyrion also states that if she starts snuffing out entire ancient family lines like the Tarlys, the Lords of Westeros will never support her. Dany doesn't much care, saying when it's their turn, those lords will also bend the knee or die. Tyrion wants to press his case further, but Dany has heard enough. Tyrion cannot push harder without publicly undermining his queen. His only choice is to stand by and watch. At Dany's command, Drogon incinerates Lord Randyll and his heir. After they are burned, all the other holdouts promptly bend the knee. Then we go to King's Landing, or more accurately into Cersei's bedroom. Qyburn has just finished examining Cersei when Jaime enters. He can tell that Jaime wants a private audience with the queen, so takes his leave. Jaime tells Qyburn that Bronn has ideas for modification on the Scorpion and that Qyburn should go find him. When they are alone, he tells her that he has seen Danish dragons and that he has seen her Dothraki. Jaime says, "This isn't a war we can win." Cersei doesn't appreciate his defeatism. Cersei says something along the line, "So Dany has a huge army? Great. Let her try to feed them in winter." Jaime is getting frustrated, and Cersei demands to know what he would suggest they do instead. She says, "Should we send an envoy to this Dragon Queen and ask her to split the Seven Kingdoms with us? Should we bend the knee to Dany and to our brother who murdered our father and son?" In this moment, Jaime reveals that Olenna confessed to Joffrey's murder. Tyrion really was innocent. Cersei takes in the information and says that it doesn't matter now. He still killed our father and we have no choice but to fight. Then the scene switches to Winterfell. The eyes of a single raven flicker orange white and it takes off. Then another raven and another 5, 10, 20 more. They all take to the sky. As we follow them, we see Winterfell in the background, and the window of Bran lies with orange white eyes in his tower room, controlling all the ravens. The ravens fly through the sky, covering ground, crossing north of the wall. We cut into their point of view. An army of 100,000 dead men blankets the surrounding hills and fields, marching in formation. White walkers ride dead horses in their midst. They are in no rush. Their pace is slow and steady. The army of the dead is finally marching on the living. Long story short, those ravens saw which one is being watched by Bran, go beyond the wall to see what the Night King is up to, but the Night King senses it and Bran is either forced out of the mind of a raven or leaves out of fear. After this, we get to see Sansa and Arya standing over Bran's chambers as Maester Swolkan enters. Sansa tells him what Bran saw, the army of the dead heading towards Eastwatch. Arya says they should send a raven immediately to Jon. Sansa agrees. Also, they have to inform Tormund at Eastwatch, the Watch at Castle Black, the Maesters at the Citadel, and many more since everyone needs to know. We go from a raven swing that takes flight from Winterfell for every corner of the Seven Kingdoms to a dragon swing as Drogon brings Dany back to Dragonstone. Dany doesn't notice the additional boat in the harbor below her, nor the lone figure on its deck too far away to make out. On that same boat, Jorah stands and looks up, seeing Dany riding Drogon. He steels himself for the reunion. Jon watches Dany and Drogon as they approach Dragonstone. Behind Jon, Rhaegal leaps down to meet his mother and brother, landing too close to Jon. Viserion joins him. They notice Jon and meet his gaze. The two dragons close in on Jon, but Jon stands his ground, staring into Rhaegal's eye. This is the moment when Drogon lands with Dany on his back, and the other dragons make way for him as he approaches Jon and leans in to sniff him. Every nerve in Jon's body screams to run, but instead he sticks out his hand and touches him. Impressed by reactions of both Drogon and Jon, Dany dismounts and says, "You didn't run," on which Jon replies, "Didn't think I'd get very far." This leads into a scene with Dany and Jon. On screen or off screen, she gives him censored version of the Battle of the Gold Road that broke out on the Rose Road, leaving the part about roasting the Tarleys alive. Daenerys only tells him that many former Lannister loyalists lined up behind their rightful queen. Half joking, Dany points out that, for one, she has dragons and this whole army of the dead that is flammable. Whoever has the fire-breathing dragons should probably be the queen. Jon laughs and says that he doesn't think that the throne should go to the person with the most dragons necessarily. Daenerys asks, "Why not?" continuing with, "Dragons are magic. People like magic. A big part of the reason they named you the king in the north was because you're magic." Jon protests, saying, "That wasn't the reason," but Dany keeps needling him. Daenerys says, "Admit it. People like you because you're magic." On which Jon replies with, "I'm not magic." Daenerys then says, "Rising from the dead is magic, and you rose from the dead, allegedly." Shocked and surprised, Jon doesn't even know what to say at that moment and says, "What?" Dany replies, "I never saw you rise from the dead. Lots of people saw me walk from the flames unburned, more than once actually. But this rising from the dead, it was a very private affair." Let me just say that it is supposedly unknown who informed Daenerys about Jon's resurrection, but it's a fact that Daenerys has been wondering about Davos' statement regarding Jon taking a knife in the heart for his people.
He risked his life for his people. He took a knife in the heart for his people. He gave his own...
What was that Sir Davos said? About taking a knife in the heart for his people. Did you notice that?
You must allow them their flights of fancy. It's dreary in the north.
Anyways, Jon then offers to show her the scars to confirm the rumors she's apparently heard, but she refuses, saying, "It's cold out there. I don't want you to get sick." Jorah finally arrives at the shores of Dragonstone, seeing his queen being accompanied with Jon Snow. A few moments later, Jorah reunites with Dany, in which it is established that Jorah is cured, and she shows her trust in Jorah by hugging him. There are also a few scenes of Tyrion revealing to Varys what their queen did to Tarleys. A Targaryen burning people alive, it troubles both men. Tyrion has not discussed the event at any length with Dany since it occurred, but they both decided he has to when the time is right. Their conversation is interrupted by a raven who lands on the window ledge with a scroll tied to its leg. This leads to a scene in the chamber of the painted table in which Dany's small council meeting takes place. Jon has the raven scroll in hand, staring at it, trying to take on board all its implications. The matter at hand, the dead are marching on the wall, more accurately on Eastwatch. Daenerys wants to face the threat from the north, but she can only do so if her opponent is willing to do the same, so she asks, "Tyrion, would Cersei ever be willing to do this?" Tyrion says that Cersei has to see it with her own eyes if they expect Cersei to believe in their statements. Jon doesn't understand how they could possibly show Cersei the army of the dead so she can see it with her own eyes. Tyrion points they don't need to show her the whole army. Tyrion says, "Bring one of the whites down south. I know my sister, and that's our only hope of getting any help from her." This makes sense to Dany. Jorah volunteers to lead this mission north of the wall. Dany doesn't like an idea of losing Jorah after he just returned to her, but Jon says that Tormund will help him with the wildlings who are at Eastwatch, and so will he himself. Dany doesn't like this idea, neither does Davos. Daenerys points out that he's the only commander here who's fought the army of the dead before, and they'll need him once the Great War starts. Beyond that, he's the king in the north, chosen by the lords of the north. A king should not go on a commando mission. Jon points out that this is exactly why he needs to go, saying that he has dealt with them before. Daenerys tries to order him not to go on such a dangerous mission, but Jon reminds her that he didn't bend the knee yet, and therefore he is not supposed to obey her orders. Jon also says that the reason his people have bonded together behind him is that he's never asked them to do something he wouldn't do himself. Jon brings Davos around to his way of seeing things, and Dany realizes that Jon is going no matter what she says, and she can't help but respect him for it. Varys points out that any evidence they find will be useless unless Cersei grants them an audience in the first place and is somehow prevented from murdering them all during that meeting. Okay guys, this would be about the first half of an episode, while the second half is currently in the process and it will be released as soon as possible. While it seems quite accurate so far, I'm not sure if all those details are about to come true, but let me know your opinion about all of this in the comment section down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please make sure to subscribe to our channel and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace.